We're here with Jennifer Blanke and Thea Chiesa from the World Economic Forum. We're launching today the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report. Thea, the first question to you is, how does the current crisis affect the rankings of this year's report?
The current rankings actually are not affected by the current crisis. Simply because we collected the data in 2008, it was too early for it to be reflected in the current rankings that we have. However, that said, they will certainly be affected by the crisis in the future rankings. And by this, what I mean is we will see the current stimulus plans that are being implemented by different nations start to take or bear fruits within nations. If we recall, two of the most important elements of the stimulus plans are infrastructure and the environment, sustainability, green. So we think we will see in the future those countries that will have embraced projects and activity along these two main pillars to actually go up.
Jennifer Blanke, what do countries need to do to improve their travel and tourism competitiveness in the current crisis?
Well, actually, if you look at our report, you'll see that the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index, which is at the heart of the report, is really a very comprehensive one. It looks at, or is basically composed of 14 different what we would call pillars of travel and tourism competitiveness, and these in turn are all made up of a very large number of drivers of travel and tourism competitiveness, of development of the sector. And so basically in that light, what we would say is that countries really need to look at a lot of longer-term issues that will continue to be very important once the crisis subsides. And these are things like development of infrastructure, putting into place policy environments that are conducive to the development of the sector, also looking at different measures to improve price competitiveness, and so on and so forth. So really taking a longer-term view rather than just thinking about the crisis per se.
How's the environmental sustainability reflected in the rankings of the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report?
It's a very important element of our rankings. Environmental sustainability today, as tomorrow, will certainly be a driver of travel and tourism economic growth. There are some opportunities that we will see for the travel and tourism sector emerging. In particular, one of the key points that we'd like the tourism sector to focus on is on creating with governments those policies and measurements that actually are conducive for its growth while at the same time reducing emissions. It's all about reduction of emissions, but we have to not forget that the travel and tourism industry needs to grow because it's a job provider, but we need to do it in a sustainable manner.
What is the most surprising evolution in the index since last year?
Well, actually, we see something that's actually quite a positive development. We're seeing that a lot of the developing countries are moving up in the rankings this year. We see it in Africa, countries such as Botswana, Namibia, Zambia moving up in the rankings. These are countries that are improving their policy environments for travel and tourism and also working on improving the sustainability, the environmental sustainability of the sector. But this is true also in different regions. We're seeing that in Asia, China, India moving up in the rankings, in Latin America, other big economies like Mexico, Brazil as well, also Costa Rica. So basically a trend that we're seeing in many of the regions is that developing countries are moving up in the rankings, and what we would like to think is that this is the result of basically the bearing of fruit of some of the reforms that have been taking place in these countries.